Okay, so this video has been heavily requested, so here it is. These are the Sony H.ear On 2 noise cancelling headphones. And aside from their awful name, they're a more playful and slightly more affordable version of the Sony 1000XM2 headphones. Aside from their designs, they do have some key differences and perform differently from their more premium counterpart. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and you can watch some of my other videos here after you're done watching this video. Unlike the Sony 1000XM2s, which only come in 2 colorways, the Sony H.ear On 2 come in 3 colorways: Twilight Red, Moonlit Blue, and Grayish Black, and 2 more colors are supposed to be released as well: Horizon Green and Pale Gold. The H.ear On 2s are Sony's attempt at going up against the Beats Studio 3's, but the H.ear On 2 are slightly cheaper than the Studio 3's, retailing for $299.99. But I actually got these for $249.99. If you want to pick these headphones up, I'll have links in the description below. I'll keep them updated so you can get the best deal possible. I suggest you check out the links because Sony products routinely go on sale, and it also helps out the channel. The Sony H.ear On 2 come included with a color matching carrying pouch, an audio cable, and they come included with a micro USB cable for charging. But if you plan on traveling a lot with these headphones, I suggest you invest in your own hard shell carrying case. The pouch is not going to protect your headphones. These headphones also don't come included with an airplane adapter, which I personally don't think is a big deal. Build quality is just as good as the Sony 1000XM2. They're mostly made out of plastic, and they have the same stainless steel headband and synthetic leather covering the ear cups. And they're heavier than I expected, weighing in at 291 grams. I'm also assuming the H.ear On 2 is using the same plastic on the underside of the headband as the 1000XM2. Which I want to point out that after 3 months of heavy usage, still haven't cracked, which was a pretty common problem with the Sony MDR1000X. So hopefully the Sony H.ear On 2 won't have a headband cracking issue either. The ear cups on the H.ear On 2 have a good amount of range of motion, but they don't pivot or swivel as much as the 1000XM2s. And unlike the M2s, the H.ear On 2s can't be laid flat, they can only fold up. On the left ear cup, you've got your NFC touch point, power button, noise cancellation button, micro USB port, and audio jack. And yes, these headphones can be used passively. My only gripe with the physical buttons is that they are very hard to find. I just wish they were raised more or textured. Just like the Sony 1000XM2, the H.ear On 2 also used touch controls on the right ear cup to control your music playback. Swipe front or back to skip or go back a track, double tap to play or pause, and swipe up or swipe down to raise or lower your volume. And pro tip, if you swipe up and then hold, the volume will continue to rise until you let go, and the same goes for lowering the volume. And if you tap and hold, you'll activate your voice assistant. I can't wait to see what Siri gets wrong this time. The touch controls are pretty intuitive and very accurate. I've never really had a problem with them, even with wet fingers. When it comes to design and comfort, I personally prefer the look and some of the design elements of the H.ear On 2 over the 1000XM2. First, the ear cups on the H.ear On 2 aren't covered in synthetic leather like the M2s, which just give them a cleaner look, but they do stick out to the sides a bit. Not as bad as the Sony XB950N ones, but you might look like Mega Man with these on. They're just not as low profile as the 1000XM2s. But the biggest design difference between the 1000XM2 and the H.ear On 2 are the ear cups. The ear cups on the H.ear On 2 do a far better job of encaging your ears and give your ears more room to breathe, which also means less sweat and heat buildup after prolonged use sessions. The ear cups on the H.ear On 2 are very similar to the ear cups found on the Bose QC35 and B&W PX. They're not as comfortable to wear as the Bose because they do have a little more clamping force and the padding isn't as soft, but they are more comfortable than the PX because they do have more padding. I feel the H.ear On 2 are going to fit just fine for most people. If you have a bigger head, the clamping force isn't going to cause you discomfort in the jaw area, and if you have bigger ears, the padding isn't going to rest on your ears like the 1000XM2 or Beats Studio 3's do. Battery life on the Sony H.ear On 2 is almost as good as the Sony 1000XM2. With noise cancellation turned on, I've averaged 28.5 hours of playback time, and with noise cancellation turned off, I've averaged 35 hours of playback time. I mean, these headphones still have a better battery life than the Bose QC35 Series 2 or the Beats Studio 3's with noise cancellation turned on. But their quick charging is pretty weak. If you plug them in for 10 minutes, then you'll only get 65 minutes of playback time. These headphones are also using Bluetooth 4.1, and their range and connectivity is very similar to the 1000XM2. They have a range of about 30 feet, very little delay so audio and images are synced when watching videos, and they have a stable and clear connection. But just like the 1000XM2, the H.ear On 2 cannot be paired to multiple devices at the same time. So you can't quickly switch from one device to another as easily as you would with, let's say, Bose headphones that can be connected to 2 devices at the same time, or Beats that use Apple's W1 chip. chip, so you can't hot swap, so switching from your phone to your laptop with the Sony headphones isn't as seamless like with other headphones, which does get annoying after a while. But if you have a premium Android device, you can also take advantage of the aptX HD audio, which is nice. When it comes to sound quality, the H.ear On 2 sounds identical to the 1000X M2, and they get just as loud. They're both closed-back headphones, and they have the same 1.57-inch dome drivers, and the H.ear On 2s connect to Sony's headphones app, so you can adjust your EQ depending on the type of music you like. They have a wide soundstage, a good amount of instrument separation, and they have a good amount of bass, but not as much bass as the Sony XB950N one. I mean, I feel these headphones sound better than the Beats Studio 3's or Bose QC35 Series 2s, but if you're looking for something with even better sound quality, then you might want to look into the B&W PX or something more high-end. But the noise cancellation on the H.ear On 2 is pretty average compared to other headphones out there. First off, the earcups themselves do a poor job of providing passive noise isolation, so a lot of sound still manages to get in and you get a lot of sound leakage. The noise cancelling mics on these headphones also like to pick up a lot of wind noise, just like the Bose or Studio 3's, but at least they don't have any cabin pressure. The noise cancelling on these headphones is really only worth using in an already quiet environment like at the office or at home, and they do an okay job when on a bus. These headphones also allow you to pump in some ambient sound in so you can be aware of your surroundings if you're walking around in the city.
Ambient sound.
And these headphones also have my favorite feature from the 1000X M2, which is quick attention. If you cover the touchpad on the right ear cup, the headphones will automatically lower the volume of whatever you're listening to and pump in all of the surrounding sounds. So this way you can talk to someone without having to take your headphones off. And when you take your hand off of the touchpad, they will set everything back to how it was. Quick attention is by far my favorite feature, and you even have to sometimes explain to people that you can still hear them even with the headphones on.
Altered Carbon, new Netflix series that they have graced us with its release date of February 2nd, and it seems to be a whole story about what happens when we're no longer limited to our body. You're able to
Now let's talk about Sony's headphones app for the H.ear On 2. It's pretty solid and well laid out. From here you can turn noise cancellation on or off, and you can choose from noise cancelling, wind noise reduction, and ambient sound. I've already demonstrated noise cancellation and ambient sound for you, and when setting the headphones to wind noise reduction, yes, the mics won't pick up that dreaded wind noise, but then they don't cancel out any sound. Unlike the 1000X M2s, these headphones don't have an atmospheric pressure sensor, and you can't calibrate the noise cancellation to better fit your surroundings. In general, you don't have as much control over the noise cancellation as you would with the 1000X M2. But you can adjust the surround sound setting on these headphones, but personally, I just keep that off because all it does is distort the sound. And you also have your equalizer settings. You can either choose from a few pre-made ones, or you can make your own. And like I said, they have a good amount of bass. If you set the bass to 10, then they'll have more bass than most other headphones on the market. But they don't have as much bass as bass-heavy headphones like the Sony XB950N one or the Skullcandy Crusher. Okay, and here's the microphone test on the Sony H.ear On 2. It's not the best microphone out there, but it does get the job done. It doesn't sound as good as the 1000X M2, but when I've spoken to people on the phone, they really didn't have an issue. But this audio clip is being recorded by the microphone on the 1000X M2, so you can be the judge of that. Sony's H.ear On 2 noise cancelling headphones perform pretty average when it actually comes to noise cancellation compared to other headphones on the market, but they do sound identical to the Sony 1000X M2, and that's a good thing. thing. They sound good. Personally, I prefer the design of the H.ear On 2, and I would really like to see the Sony 1000X M3 to adopt some of this design language. What I really like most about the H.ear On 2 is the ear cup design. I really like the extra breathing room and openness of the ear cups without having the pads actually rest on my ears. I really think the Sony H.ear On 2 are a great alternative to the Beat Studio 3's. They cost less, they sound good, and their noise cancellation is slightly better. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It helps out more than you realize. For more product reviews and deal alerts, check out jimcaddy.net. If you want to support the channel, pick up a shirt, and I'll catch you next time.